Hello fashionistas, let us discuss the things that I sewed in 2025, shall we? Same ranking system as last time. Consistency is key. Real ones will remember. Our A tier is Tim Gunn. This one's for you for things that are Project Runway ready. Our B tier is The Edge of Glory by Lady Gaga for things that are close to good, maybe a little off, but I was on the right track, baby. I was born that way. Our C tier is This Could Have Been an Email, which isn't painful but isn't productive either. Our D tier is Public Humiliation Uniform, maybe something to wear at home in private or in public as punishment. And of course, the F in F tier stands for Flop Level 5000. Got 50 objects this year. Let's do it. First up, a waxed canvas crossbody bag from January. I used this every day for months until I trained myself to stop carrying around so many emotional support items and switch to a smaller bag. The top stitching is kind of ass because the fabric was too thick for my sewing machine. Edge of Glory. This strawberry bucket hat is phenomenal. A toddler across the country has it now, and to me that is perfect. So Tim Gunn, this one's for you.
Make it work.
Alien boxers sound really cool in theory, but were really questionable in practice. The fabric wasn't stretchy enough, they were a size or two too small, and I'm not confident the instructions or design were well thought out. I also really sucked at sewing stretchy fabric at this point in my sewing career, so the finishing was awful on top of everything. These are no longer with us. I am sorry to these aliens, but this is our first Flop Level 5000. For some reason there are two on here. Second Flop Level 5000. Here are a few wax canvas tote bags. These take 0 time or fabric to sew and are really hard to mess up. So for that reason, Tim Gunn, here we come. Here's a pile of bucket hats that I made for my friends. We've got horses, skeletons, plaid, tie-dye, and understated navy. I think I did a good job on these. I'm going to mark them as could have been an email only because I myself do not wear bucket hats because they make me look and feel and act like a baby. These two chore coats were my everythings, my ones and only. I made a whole other video about them, which I will link if I ever figure out how to do that. They took me over 50 hours to make and have many imperfections because they were the most complicated thing I had made up until that point. They're waxed canvas, which means they can't be washed. That's a little icky to me. I also cut the sleeves on mine way too short and added some cuffs to them later in the year to save the jacket. The top stitching is wonky because guess what? The canvas was too thick for my sewing machine. So I'm going to put this in Edge of Glory. It wasn't fair to sew jackets without making one for Margot as well. I messed it up a little bit, but she is just like so pretty. Edge of Glory. Here is a strawberry tank top. Very cute fabric. Didn't fit right. Could have been an email. Oh my god, these animals, these crazy animals. I got deep into stuffed animal territory and was making them pretty much as ugly as possible. I made frogs, cats, crabs, whales, sardines, and even like a fake taxidermied hand. They all live with friends around the country, which to me is haunting yet charming. Somebody had me send one of the frogs unsolicited to an unsuspecting recipient that I have never met before, and it made me feel complicit in a low-level crime. I guess potentially a felony because it was through USPS. I don't even know how to rank these. I think in honor of their rebellious nature, I have to rank them as a Flop Level 5000. Here's a beige linen tank top. It's beige. It's linen and it's a tank top. I don't know what else to say. It looks okay in the picture, but just like the strawberry one, doesn't fit quite right. Could have been an email. These pants really challenged my sanity. I had never sewn real pants with a zipper fly, waistband, button, the whole thing. It took me 15 hours to test and fit and adjust the rough draft for these pants. Then it took me 2 hours to cut out the fabric that you're seeing here and 11 and a half hours to sew. They have carpenter pockets, rivets that I have to occasionally reinstall because I'm not that good at rivets right now. My sewing machine struggled with the canvas a little bit, but it's been about a year and I wear them like at least once a week. They've also clearly got great mobility. Edge of Glory. Here's a weird tank top in beige linen and another in brown rayon with matching shorts. This was intended as a really simple project to switch it up after sewing those pants. I do not wear tops in this style, and I also don't like rayon, so I'm not really sure what this was all about. Could have been an email. In a hasty and brave return to the world of real pants, I remade those pants in cotton twill without all of the work pockets and rivets, and I also made them as shorts. I tinkered with the fit a bit, and the pants turned out well, but the shorts were somehow too tight and rode up way too much. I don't even have them anymore. Edge of glory. As another palette cleanser, I sewed these 2 tiny knot bags. These are perfect, although I don't know what to do with them, I don't know what to put in them, and I don't know why. I promised myself I wouldn't fill them with emotional support objects, so does anybody want these? I don't know. Edge of glory. Here are some more shorts from last summer, this time in 13-ounce canvas, which was a near-death sentence for my sewing machine as well as my mental health. The belt loops in particular basically required me to wield a sword to attach them to the shorts and puncture through all those layers of fabric. At one point, I also thought I was finished. I tried them on and they did not fit at all. I was mayor of Wedgie City. I had to add a gusset in between the legs to buy me some space. Luckily, the more I wore them, the more the canvas kind of broke in, and they fit me pretty well now. It was a whole lot of drama, and for that reason, I'm going to put that at Edge of Glory. Here are some miscellaneous pajama pants and shorts for a friend with a new, extremely clean method of installing the waistband. Edge of Glory. I was commissioned to duplicate some old drop crotch knit shorts that had been wearing out for a long time. I traced the originals and reverse engineered the construction to assemble a new pair. The resulting ones were extremely similar in appearance, but too snug. I chose fabric that was really thick and not stretchy enough. Beginner's mistake, you live, you learn, etc. Could have been an email. Here are some tan linen boxers. This was my first time making boxers, and despite some finishing issues, I think overall they slap. I made them again in white linen shortly thereafter with a matching tank top that we do not have to talk about. Yet again, didn't fit. But the boxers are Edge of Glory. I still had some of that black twill fabric left over, so I adjusted my game plan and made yet another pair of shorts. These are the best fitting and most comfortable out of pretty much any bottoms that I sewed last year. I wore them all summer and will continue to do so. So it is finally Tim Gunn time again.
Make it work.
This vest, give me a second, hold on. Walk with me. This vest will not leave my house, and not because I want it here. It is way too big for me. It was too thick for my sewing machine. I took it to the river and pretended to go fishing with it to see if that would help. It didn't help at all. I don't know what to do with it. Nobody wants it. I've put it on Instagram for $30, $20, $0. No one wants it. It was so humbling. It was a great learning experience, and I actually really like how it looks on the hanger. It was a sizing issue, and the fabric didn't break in because I never wore it. Maybe it looks okay on camera, but I truly look and feel like a cardboard box when I put this on. It is so stiff, it is so big, especially in the shoulders. I really feel like if I walked into the UPS store that they would try to mail me somewhere. I can't believe I'm saying this, but I think this is our first public humiliation uniform. Here are some more of those drop crotch shorts. These went so much more smoothly thanks to much better fabric choice and clarity of construction. Edge of Glory. I made another pair of work pants over the summer. This time I copied the butt pockets from my favorite pair of Carhartt pants, and I really like how they turned out. These pants are a mid-weight twill that my sewing machine handled terribly, especially when I got to the absolutely diabolical belt loops that I had to attach by hand. You could say these were the straw that broke the camel's back. By the camel, I mean me, it's me, I'm the camel. This made me take my sewing machine to the repair tech and see what could be done. I did, however, make a pretty cool Twilight baseball scene themed video on Instagram to debut these pants to my millions of Instagram followers. So while these pants currently do not fit me and the fabric isn't really my color and I have traumatic memories associated with their construction, I think that video was pretty cool. I like the pockets and they'll probably fit me again at some point in my life. I'm going to say could have been an email, right? Maybe I'm just bitter about that sewing machine experience. God, why am I still wearing this? Here's a hard pivot. I had a tank top that I really liked the fit of, so I used Glad Press and Seal to trace it and make a template out of it. I got a thrift store t-shirt to practice making this tank top, and it came out really well for a test run. In the future, I would definitely use ribbed fabric, which is more appropriate for something this tight. You'll notice that around the neckline and a bit around the armholes, there's some puckering. That's because I was not great at installing binding at that point, so everything was just pulled a little bit too tight and kind of awkward looking. But since it was a test run, I'm comfortable saying that it could have been an email. Oh, while we're at it, walk with me. This is amazing. I Love glad press and seal. Not in the kitchen, in the sewing room. I will press and seal for the rest of my life to copy clothes that I like. Press and seal. A tier.
Make it work.
Oh my God, look at this. The smallest clothes that I have ever sewn. My friend was about to have a baby, so I made these tiny overalls. The print is just fabulous. I had enough fabric left over to make a matching bib as well as a matching sardine. If this isn't Tim Gunn tier, I don't know what is.
Make it work.
Next, I was feeling really empowered by Glad Press and Seal, and so I decided to copy a short sleeve button up that I had gotten at the thrift store years ago. This one was a test run that I made out of an old curtain. In general, it went pretty well for a test run. I messed up the collar, so the shaping is weird. It's also too tight around the neck to comfortably button up, which was also true of the original shirt. I gotta be honest, since then this shirt has been cut into scraps and repurposed for other endeavors because leaving the house in this shirt would have been a, say it with me now, public humiliation uniform. Oh look, more shorts. I did the Carhartt butt pocket again on these and also made them a little bit longer in the legs just for fun. They fit great. Despite being recently serviced, my sewing machine still couldn't handle the belt loops, so I'm going to put these in Edge of Glory. This is kind of a weird one. Here is a mat that I made for my serger. If you're wearing a t-shirt right now, are you wearing a t-shirt right now? Sorry if that creeped you out. Take a look like next to your side and you will probably see a serged seam. As you sew on a serger, it's cutting off a bunch of fabric and basically just creating this big pile of fabric spaghetti on your sewing table, unless you have something to catch the scraps. My serger doesn't have a scrap catcher built in, and so I made this mat with an attached spaghetti catcher. It is a little messily sewn. I should have made the inside of it out of like a slippery fabric so it would be easier to remove all of the scraps and clean out. It mostly works, but I'm not totally sold. I wish I just had a plastic catcher that could snap onto the machine. I think this could have been an email. Here's another remake of that short sleeve button up. According to my project notes, it was my best button up yet, but I think I've only worn it twice. There's something about the fabric and my total lack of adaptation on the overly tight neck. I'm not really sure what I was thinking on that one. I think I've also cut this up into scraps since I've made it, so this could have been an email. I made some scrub caps. I think that means I'm technically a medical supply provider now. It sounds like they fit mostly fine. I'm very proud of the fabric choice, especially with the bright colored one. I think it's a lot of fun. I'll put these in Edge of Glory. Here is a long sleeve shirt / sweater type thing that I made out of very stretchy cotton. The pattern called for a ribbed neckline, which I had never installed before, and there is a very specific ratio between the length of the neck opening and the length of the ribbed neckline. And if you don't get that ratio correct, your neckline will either like bow out from your body or cinch in too tight. Turned out the proper ratio for this shirt was 80%, and it turned out really great. I low-key cannot believe I sewed a rib neckline right on the first try. Not to toot my own horn, but may I direct your attention to the phenomenal stripe matching at the shoulder seam and the sleeve seam, which I achieved by taking an Elmer's glue stick, gluing the fabric together, letting it dry, and then sewing it. That is the shit that I do like. I wear this pretty often, though I do have ideas for modifications for next time, so I'm going to put this in Edge of Glory. I made another tank top with the leftover fabric from this shirt. It's okay. Once again, I installed the binding a little too tight and it puckers at the neckline, which is a little bit harder to see due to the like hypnotic nature of the stripes. I do wear this a lot, but I always linger on my mistakes, so I'm going to put this as could have been an email. I did another round of Halloween orders for my friends this year, my fall-winter collection, you could say. I realized I quite enjoy making clothes for kids and matching sets for families. This was my favorite offering of the Halloween collection. Glow-in-the-dark ghost fabric. Did you know that they made fabric that glows in the dark? I didn't know. I would appreciate more opportunities to interact with glow-in-the-dark objects as an adult. So here you go, Tim Gunn.
Make it work.
Intermission alert. Red alert. It's time for intermission. As you've probably heard, I have complained a lot about my beginner sewing machine thus far, which isn't really fair. It does great at what it's designed for, which is lightweight, medium weight, and borderline some heavyweight projects. It can do zigzags, it can do buttonholes and some decorative stitches. It's kind of like a compact sedan. It is perfectly functional, flexible, may not be the most powerful, but can like take you to a lot of different places. I don't know. It's not her fault I decided to start sewing like a shitload of heavy canvas this year. Anyway, here's a picture of my new sewing machine. She is twice as heavy. This thing I think is like 30 or 35 pounds, all metal, large, and in charge of my life. She can only sew in a straight line, but she does so with gusto. She has several deluxe convenience features that have made my sewing life so much easier, such as an automatic thread cutter, a knee lift for the presser foot, automatic needle up-down positioning, an independent bobbin winding motor, extra tension discs for heavy-duty top stitching thread. I could go on forever. This machine is like if Rolls-Royce made a semi-truck. And in a divine stroke of luck, I actually got a brand new machine for a refurbished price. I did not make this object this year, but she miraculously entered my life, and so I'm obviously going to put her right where she belongs.
Make it work.
She's sitting right next to me. You can't see her, but you can feel her energy emanating through me. Then I got back in the game with the Glad press and seal and traced and copied my favorite long sleeve button-up shirt. And good God, this took forever. Shirts have so many different pieces. Like you've got collar, collar stand, front bodice, pocket, back yoke, back bodice, sleeve placket, cuff. Did I mention the button placket in the front? There's just like a lot going on with shirts. My first draft went pretty well. I got a few of the dimensions a little bit off, and I think the fabric that I chose was a little bit too heavy for this pattern. So like most rough drafts, this one could have been an email. Oh, here's an honorary mention. So once I trace the patterns out of press and seal, I need to transfer them to a more permanent medium. Usually that would be something like sewing pattern paper, tracing paper, or in my case, a bunch of paper bags from the grocery store, hastily torn apart and ironed and then taped back together, which is extremely janky. I would like to dedicate this segment of the video to my humongous roll of extremely affordable and sturdy construction paper. One of my associates so kindly delivered this to my door because he also had errands to run at Home Depot that day. It was just a luxurious experience, and based on the size of this roll, I think it will last me the rest of my life. I mean, where else would I put this?
Make it work.
Actually, you know what this would go really well with? Hold on. Speaking of paper and cardboard, here are some custom shorts that I made for a friend out of a sentimental 90s Garfield beach towel, also combined with band merch. Go stream problem plays. I don't know what to rank these, so I hope Tim Gunn would like them. Here are some surprise baby and toddler overalls that I made for someone who has consistently supported my small sewing business ever since I started a fake LLC on Instagram last year. Look at how cute and small. Oh my God. Tim Gunn for sure.
Make it work.
Here's another one of those long sleeve shirt sweater things. It's a test run made out of low-key, shitty cotton spandex. It's a fine test run. It's too big at the sides. The sleeves are weird. Public humiliation uniform for the fabric alone. I revisited the button-up shirt with some striped cotton shirting that I got from my local fabric store and only cost me like $20 total somehow. This shirt went so much more smoothly the second time around. I fixed some mistakes with the collar, some mistakes with the sleeves, buttonholes, and fit. You can ignore the part where I ever so slightly sliced open the shoulder in the middle of construction and straight up glued it shut. I wear this shirt all the time, and despite that gash, I think this is like the most legitimate piece of clothing I've ever sewn. And I hope Tim Gunn would agree. Here is a cute little zipper pouch I made and monogrammed by hand for a friend. Now that I'm looking at it from the distance of space and time, I realize it looks a little bit like a hippo with the little ears. I will never get the corners perfectly aligned and square on these things, and my hand embroidery is ass, but I think it's charming, so I'm putting this at the edge of glory. Now here is a gorgeous and practical tote bag and a 10-ounce taupe canvas. My new sewing machine handled this like nobody's business. The bag came together in less than a day, was extremely easy, intuitive, so I'm going to put this in Tim Gunn tier.
Make it work.
Okay, I really need to take off this cardboard box. I've been wearing this for too long. I'm going to hold my emotional support press and seal instead. Okay, this one is so annoying, but here's another one of those striped sweaters, this time in black and gray, and this time with some experimentation that really did not go well. First, the cuffs are just weird. I don't want to talk about the cuffs. I shouldn't have tried to make my own cuffs. I'm talking about the cuffs. I also installed the neck binding inside out and had to straight up cut it off and redo it, meaning that the neckline is much lower than I would want it to be. I love the colors, but I cannot stand the fabric. You may remember my fierce distaste of rayon from these guys earlier. For whatever reason, I decided to let rayon back into my life and instantly regretted it. I prefer thick and structured fabrics, and rayon is just so flimsy and thin and drapey, and it just makes me feel like wispy, but not in a good way. This has been downgraded to pajamas, and not to be rude, but I hate rayon so bad. Flop level 5,000. We love a redemption arc. Here's that sweater again in gray and white. It only took a day and a half to make. It rules. Look at the pattern matching again. Tim Gunn tier. Getting towards the end here, I got back on the button-up wagon, part 3, the remix. I adjusted the sleeve and the pleat and used a thicker fabric for more of a winter vibe. In general, this shirt goes pretty hard. I pre-shrank the fabric before I sewed it like I always do, but for whatever reason, the second time I washed the shirt, it shrank even more, which felt like betrayal, and I'm not trying to take it personally, but it's like a little bit too small now. Edge of Glory. Here's another tote bag, this time much bigger and boxier, using some of that leftover waxed canvas. I had to piece it together a little bit because I was using some smaller scraps, so it looks very utilitarian. Fits the vibe. This bag carries everything I ask it to. Like, I wish I could get carried in this bag. The interior finishing is a bit off though, so I'm going to put it in Edge of Glory. Revisiting coats. So the first ones that I made were back in February, and I didn't make another one until November with my new sewing machine in tow. This bad boy is 13-ounce canvas, extremely heavyweight. I also taught myself how to make welt pockets during this process. It took me 20 and a half hours-ish. My favorite part is either the color or the top stitching, which is very, very clean, if I may say so myself. I wish I would have tapered the sleeves a little bit and made a size smaller, but now I know for next time. Edge of Glory. After wearing that coat out in the rain exactly once, I realized I wanted an option for a hood, so I made this detached one out of scraps. It only took an hour to make and is extremely useful, so I'm going to put this at the Edge of Glory. Here is a coat and hood I made as part of a top secret gift giving situation, which, since I'm so late to recording this video, is no longer top secret. It's not perfect, but I think it is delightful. I think it is outdoorsy, and I'm really pleased with it. So, Edge of Glory. I also made this blue dress as part of the top secret gift giving situation. It was technically a shirt pattern that I extended into a dress and added some side seam pockets to. The finishing on the inside is really solid. There are no raw edges anywhere, no serged edges anywhere, and I also did my first blind hem. I hope it fits. I think it does. Edge of Glory. The stockings that I made for Christmas a few years ago were comically little, extremely cute to look at and extremely impossible to use, so I decided to replace them. I picked up a cotton drop cloth canvas from the hardware store, meaning I got 4 stockings for $11, which is not bad. The last ones also spun around, and so I rotated the hanging loops on these ones, and they hang much better. So, you know what? Merry Christmas, Tim Gunn. Speaking of Christmas, I sewed a few more giant tote bags as presents. The canvas on these, they're extremely thick, so I had to buy bigger size needles, and according to my project notes, size 18 needle again. Yowza, mamma mia, that's a big needle. I haven't perfected the top stitching, but these are mostly fashionable and extremely utilitarian, so I will put those in Edge of Glory. This is a jacket that I just finished sewing for a friend out of 100% cotton, 12-ounce, indigo denim from Mount Vernon with a 100% cotton flannel lining and interior pockets. This took me 22 and a half hours to cut and sew, and it's fabulous, if I may say so myself. I have never sewn with denim before, so this was a learning experience. I had some challenges with the top stitching in a few areas because I'm still learning how to adjust the tension settings on my new machine and what works for what kinds of fabric. But in general, I would say this jacket slaps, so like Edge of Glory for sure, if not Tim Gunn. Maybe I should practice being kinder to myself. I'll put this in Tim Gunn tier. Real fans will remember that I ended 2024 by sewing an extremely ridiculous dress out of Pixar Cars fabric. So on a similar note, I wanted to end 2025 with something ridiculous. Here are some horse pajamas that I finished in December, made a whole other video about these. They're insane for several reasons, and I love them. There was a whole cinematic emotional journey in the construction of these pajamas because I decided to assign myself some meticulous pattern matching, which was briefly a disaster, but ended up resolved after about 15 hours of sewing. Most importantly, this project allowed me to harass my friends to draw a bunch of crazy horses for me, but I won't spoil that. You will have to see the other video. Obviously, these pajamas are Tim Gunn tier. So here's my final report card. Just when you thought the video was coming to a natural conclusion, here is some data comparing my first 2 years of sewing. Each of these pie charts breaks down the ranking within that year. So in 2024, for example, just about 8% of my projects ended up at flop level 5000, compared to 45.5% of my projects were ranked at the edge of glory. On first glance, one might say these pie charts look almost exactly alike. And I agree, which is why I made this bar graph instead. Here's another way of looking at this data, and it's much easier to compare between 2024 and 2025, of course, with the years being divided into bipartisan blue and red. In this view, may we observe the similarities between the first 3 tiers across both years, and contrast with the dissimilarities between the Edge of Glory and Tim Gunn tiers. The conclusions that I'm drawing here are: 1. I sewed a lot more, completing nearly 1.5 times the number of projects this year. Number 2, I'm producing higher quality work slightly more often, I think. And number 3, despite how extremely professional these bar graphs look, the conclusions are not in any way statistically significant or scientifically reliable due to the fact that I ranked myself in categories that I made up based on criteria that I also made up and was extremely subjective and inconsistent. The rankings wavered based in large part on my mood and the wind and other natural factors. I think we can all agree to do our own research here. Anyway, back to other me. I am still dealing with a lot of growing pains, like at all times, and I keep having to remind myself that I'm not going to be perfect at something I've only done recreationally for 2 years. I continue getting humbled by these projects, and I guess that's like part of the point. A big piece of my ongoing learnings this year, not to be like corny on YouTube or anything, was that the mistakes and the handmade aspects add character and uniqueness and charm. My instinctual measurements of self-assessment often sound like, hey, does this look like it was made by a perfect robot with 0 mistakes? If so, great. If not, flop over 5000. And I'm not really sure that's like a fair metric or something that I actually want to abide by. I don't know. It's close. Anyway, that was 2025. See you in the next one.